On today's episode of Locked On Sox, I give you my predictions for the 2022 White Sox season, and we have a big announcement for the future of the podcast.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. We're free and available on platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find us there at Locked On Sox or by searching Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. I've been the host of Locked On White Sox for over 4 months now, and I'm a content creator over at CHGO. I host the CHGO White Sox podcast with former Locked On White Sox host Herb Lawrence and Vinny Duber. On today's show, it is Friday, March 25th. I'll give you my predictions for the 2022 White Sox. I will talk about Carlos Rodon's return against the White Sox in today's spring training matchup, and I will let you know about a big announcement about the future of the podcast. I'll leave it at that, and we'll get into it a little bit later on. Let's talk about an old face, Carlos Rodon. He pitched against the White Sox on Thursday in a spring training game. He went 2 2/3 innings, striking out 4. He did allow a home run to our guy, Eloy Jimenez, and on the home run, Carlos Rodon said that he threw a changeup and he hit the ball to dead center. Carlos, that is your worst pitch. We've seen you watch. We've watched you pitch for over 8 years now. We know your changeup isn't the best. So even the home run he gave up, it wasn't his best pitch. But shout out to Eloy Jimenez. We weren't able to watch this one too, which is frustrating. So I haven't been able to see the actual Eloy homer. I haven't been able to see any of Carlos's 4 strikeouts against the Chicago White Sox. But it was great to see what he said after the game. This is from Daryl Van Schouwen, but he talked to just reporters after the game, and he said on the White Sox decision to not re-sign him and on the business of baseball, he said, you get it as a kid, you don't understand it, you just want to play baseball, and then you start understanding the business when you get into professional baseball. There's only so much a team can do. It's not like they didn't want me on their team. The Sox wanted me, and gladly I would have come back, but sometimes you have to explore other options. Yeah, $44 million sounds nice, Carlos. No one's upset you took that. That's great security for your family and for your career. And 2 years, $44 million. The Sox didn't really announce that they wanted to pay him that much. They chose that 18.4 for the qualifying offer was too much for Carlos Rodon for them to pay, and they were going to monitor his market. But clearly the Giants were aggressive in their offer, and the Sox couldn't match it, or the Sox didn't, want to match it, maybe because of his injury history, but it is good to see Carlos go out and be effective against his old team. Tim still got a hit off of him. Eloy got a homer off of him, but it's good work. The slider and the fastball are still working. He's still got 4 Ks, and I think a lot of White Sox fans wanted to see him back in a White Sox uniform, but him having success is a good thing because he is a White Sox product, and it clearly shows that they were able to take his talent to the next level if a team's willing to pay $22 million for him. And it's great for him and his future that he got that security, but it's also bittersweet because I wish he was still on the White Sox. But seeing a lefty get paid is great. So good to see old face Carlos Rodon looking like himself. And again, he could probably brush that Eloy Jimenez home run off because his changeup isn't his best pitch. Locked On White Sox fans, I have to tell you about our friends over at Built Bars. Have you tried their Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors like yummy cinnamony churro, coconut marshmallow, and banana cream pie. All of these are going to be your new favorite. It will be so hard to pick. All 3 will be your favorite. The Puffs are incredible. And again, did I mention that all Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate? The Puffs included 100% real chocolate. And if you don't believe me and you don't believe that these are a good snack for you, go to Built.com and you could scroll the macros chart. You'll be blown away at the high protein, low calorie of these snacks, high fiber, low carb of these snacks. These are a great replacement for candy bars. You'll start feeling better. They taste just as good, and there's so many flavors to choose from. And at Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, and then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every time. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. Locked On MLB Prospects host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. So I want to get into my predictions, and we're going to go back to last year when I made my predictions on Twitter. And I want to give a shout out to Josh Nelson of Sox Machine, because I was, I had the idea like, I gave my predictions last year, completely forgetting that Josh Nelson originally tweeted these out for his podcast, the Sox Machine podcast, that him and Jim Margulis were going to give their season predictions. So he tweeted out, what's your predictions for 2021, most valuable hitter, most valuable pitcher, breakout player, rookie of the year, and the White Sox record in 2021. So we'll go through my picks from last year, give you my basis, and then we'll take you through what I think for 2022. But thank you, Josh, for the content. I didn't realize I was stealing it until I finally found and dug up the old tweet. So I also stole your weather report from for today's 108 tourney. So I appreciate you being so kind with your content. So go follow Josh on Twitter at SoxMachine_Josh, and him and Jim make me so much more informed as a White Sox fan, and I'm able to provide coherent thoughts and insightful thoughts on the White Sox because of their great work. So thank you, Josh, for letting me borrow your content here. But in 2021, I had the most valuable hitter being Tim Anderson. I think I guessed that wrong. It would probably still be Jose Abreu, just for the amount of games he played. Yasmani Grandal was so affected in the small amount that he played, but it probably is, either Tim or Jose for being the most valuable hitter, just because they're so consistent. I do think that Jose, coming off of an MVP season, had a pretty good year. So I'll give it to Jose still. He's still the leader on this team. So shout out to Jose Abreu. I got that one wrong. Then for most valuable pitcher, I said Lucas Giolito. He was very good, but Lance Lynn obviously finishing top 3 in the Cy Young. He was the most valuable pitcher. I didn't realize what he was going to bring to the White Sox, but it was very good. And I think that, Rodon probably had more eye-popping numbers, and Rodon had, more bigger moments like a no-hitter. But with his quality and quantity, Lance Lynn overtakes him. He had more quantity over Lucas Giolito, and he had more quantity over Carlos Rodon, and he had more quality over Lucas Giolito. So I think it's pretty easy to say most valuable pitcher for the White Sox in 2021 was Lance Lynn. Breakout player in 2021, I had Carlos Rodon. I definitely didn't put Orion Moncada being a top 5 MVP vote getter. Do not look at that. I said Carlos Rodon was the breakout player for the Chicago White Sox. I said that he was going to be the 3rd best pitcher for the Sox in 2021. Could make the argument he was. Giolito quality-wise and Lynn quality-wise probably overtakes him, but I think that quality-wise Rodon was better than Cease when healthy. You could also make the argument that he was the second most valuable pitcher for the White Sox in 2021. So I think that I probably got that one wrong. So we could say that, maybe I got it right. I'll give that one to me. So 1 for 3 so far. I'll say the breakout player for the Sox was Carlos Rodon. I just had him, probably second best Sox starting pitcher. So I was wrong that he would be the 3rd best Sox starting pitcher. But again, shout out to Carlos Rodon and his $44 million. Way to get that bag. Rookie of the year, I put, does Eric Crochet count? He probably did. He only pitched 6 innings in his first debut year in 2020, but I'll give it to Andrew Vaughn, showing the ability to be a DH, a right fielder, a left fielder, a first baseman, a third baseman, the ability to play at second base. And what he did through his first 105 games was truly special. And he didn't have an extra base hit after August 19th, but you look at his numbers through that date, and they're truly eye-popping. He was such a great hitter for the Sox, especially in those middle months, and his injury slowed him down a lot, but I think if he's healthy and he's able to stay out there and he's used to the 162 grind of an MLB season, you're going to see some special things from Andrew Vaughn. So I'll say I got that wrong, even though Crochet was still effective. And then for the record, I actually nailed this. Probably the hardest thing to nail. I said 93-69 for your Chicago White Sox, and they were 93-69. So I feel pretty good about that one. I went 2-5 in my predictions last year, so let's see if we can do better in 2022. Most valuable hitter, I think it's going to be Luis Robert. I mentioned that he can be an MVP this year, and if he's healthy, it's Luis Robert. I mean, his top end is better than anyone's top end on the Chicago White Sox, and one thing that has held him back is health. If he had a full 2021 to figure everything out, he might have been an MVP candidate that year. So it's going to be fun to see if La Pantera can tear it up, and I think that it's pretty clear that he is the most valuable hitter to the White Sox, at least going into the season in 2022. Most valuable pitcher, I could say Lucas Giolito again. I could say Lance Lynn again. Clearly, they've had some great years. Dylan Cease is an up-and-comer, but I think the most valuable pitcher is Dallas Keuchel. If he's able to give him 160 innings, I think the White Sox will be thrilled with that. If he's able to shore up their concerns and give them 4 pitchers that they feel good about, because clearly they felt good about Keuchel at some point. They gave him a pretty big contract. So he's making $18 million a year. If he gets over 160 innings, he'll go up to $20 million. He'll get a $2 million bonus. So I think the Sox are be thrilled if he honestly picked up that contract, because that means he's pitching well, he's effective, he's going deep into games, and they have to use their bullpen less, which if Michael Kopech is only able to give you 4 innings each start, you're going to need that bullpen more and more. So if those 4 starters can give you at least 6 innings, Cease, Keuchel, Giolito, and Lynn, that makes dealing with that 5th day a hell of a lot easier. So if Dallas Keuchel is healthy and he has a ERA under 5 and he's getting, a ground ball rate around 55%, I think the Sox will be absolutely happy with that. And I think that's why he's the most valuable pitcher, because if he's able to bridge their gap to get to October, their 3 of Giolito, Lynn, and Cease is enough. And I think then Kopech can be used in more, advantageous situations. And it just makes their road to victory a lot easier. And Dallas Keuchel wasn't even on the postseason roster last year. I don't know if he needs to be on the postseason roster this year. He just needs to be on the roster to help them get to the postseason. And if he's able to provide quality innings, quality 6 innings without putting the team in danger, the Sox will be thrilled. And I think that you can make the case that he would be the most valuable pitcher for the Sox in that case. It feels like they're going with 5 guys. It feels like the 5 starters on the team are your 5 starters. It doesn't feel like they're going to add to this. And I know that people are worried about Dallas Keuchel, but if his back injury was truly limiting him this year, we saw in 2020 that he can be effective. And he is a control guy. His stuff should age fairly well. He's not throwing 95 miles per hour, right? He's throwing low 90s, mid 80s. That should age pretty gracefully, as long as he's able to control it, which, a back injury will hurt your ability to repeat those mechanics and be able to control your stuff. So there is a possible Dallas Keuchel resurgent bandwagon coming along. So I think that you can make the case that he could be the most valuable pitcher for the Sox in 2022. Breakout player, I'll go with Andrew Vaughn. I mentioned his slump after August 19th. If he's healthy, if he's truly able to go through the grind of 162 games and play 140 or whatever, and produce like he did through August 19th, the White Sox might have found, their right field solution in Andrew Vaughn, or they might have found their DH solution in Andrew Vaughn. This kid's going to be special, especially with the bat. So Andrew Vaughn is the easiest pick for breakout player. Rookie of the year, I think it just has to default to Gavin Sheets, because there's not a lot of rookies on this team. Tim Anderson's a vet, Yohan Moncada's a vet, Leary and Josh Harrison are vets. Obviously, Pito and Yasmani are vets. There's not a lot of rookies on this team. They spent a lot of money on their bullpen. Kopech isn't a rookie anymore. I think that the only player that might be a rookie is Gavin Sheets, but I'll have to check the eligibility, because he's got 160 at-bats in his career, 179 plate appearances, so he might be over the minimum. So I think it might go to Gavin Sheets by default, but there also might not be a rookie on this team. And this team is still young, so that's impressive. And then in 2022, I think the White Sox will go 95 and 67. I don't think they're a 100-win team, but looking at the divisions, especially the AL Central, unless Minnesota has a really great season, the Sox should coast to an AL Central win. And Cleveland's going to be really bad. I think the Sox should be better this year against Kansas City. I think we say that every year, but I think they'll be better against Kansas City. And, Minnesota doesn't have the pitching to keep up with the White Sox. So I do think the Sox can go 95 and 67, even with the roster currently constructed. Sans Michael Conforto, sans another starting pitcher. They should have the ability to go 95 and 67. They're not a 100-win team, but with their division, if this is how good they think their team is, they should absolutely have no problem getting to 95 wins. And maybe that's a little bit too much a hope here, but I do think this team will be better, and if they're healthier, they'll be a team to reckon with. But I don't know if they'll be a World Series winning team. Again, that's the number one storyline for the 2022 White Sox. Listen to our last episode for that. It's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, it's time for the big announcement, and it's definitely a difficult one, but this is my last episode hosting Locked On White Sox. I have a lot of people to thank, but I really do appreciate everyone who has supported me, and it's been a great experience working for Locked On. They really do help their hosts. They are really trying to put them in the best situation, and I felt so helped by them, and it was really great to have the support of them behind me, even as a person that didn't have a huge lengthy background as a podcast host. So it was really nice to have the support of the Locked On team behind me, and already the listeners that Tanny and Herb built up. The fact that you people stayed and supported me meant the world to me. It was great to do this from my closet. I'm doing this episode from outside of my closet because I already recorded this episode and it didn't save. So I lost all of my footage, all of my original goodbye and saying in the closet. And we were going to have one more final episode, but now I'm doing it from my bed because the idea of taking everything out of my closet right now to reset up my studio, it just seems like I've already done it before. So I just want to go into a couple thank yous. And I want to start off first with you, the listener, the person that we do this show for. We want this to be your first listen each and every day. We want you to be informed on your team. It's your team every day. And your participation in our mailbags and all throughout the lockout meant the world to me. And the fact that you supported me after Tanny left and Tanny Herb left, it did mean a ton. Listening to a solo podcast is difficult. I hope I made it entertaining at times. And the fact that people were able to listen to the rougher episodes and wait until I found my groove, I really do appreciate it. And some of the people that did participate and some of the listeners that did call in, obviously Mark in the Park and Fred, I'll miss you guys. If you're ever in the neighborhood, Mark, hit me up. It'd be great to meet you. But Mark in the Park, Mark in Litchfield Park, always was consistently calling me and hitting me up with his thoughts. And he calls himself a grump. But he was really great to talk to, and it was great to have his participation. So thank you, Mark, for calling in. John from Brookfield always called in. It was great to hear from him. Other Sean, who gave us the Kyle Schwarber monument that we were supposed to drive to if the White Sox signed Kyle Schwarber in Middletown, Ohio. Thank you, Other Sean, for your participation and listenership. You've been big over the past couple months. Dan from the 219, TGIF Dan, and TGIF to my mom as well. Shout out to Dan from the 219. You're always writing in. You're always participating. I saw someone asking for White Sox podcast suggestions, and Dan said, Locked On Sox with Sean Anderson. So Dan, I really do appreciate that, man. Jake Lamb, a holdover from the Tanny and Herb days. So surprising that a baseball caller would call in, or a baseball player would call in to a little podcast like this. But thank you, Jake Lamb, for taking time out of your day for the little people. I got to give a shout out to Adam. He was always writing in at lockedonsox@gmail.com. Shane Spagnola has supported me a ton in Locked On Sox and in the new venture CHGO. Same for Zach Byrne. He was a holdover from Tanny and Herb, and the fact that he still supported me and was tweeting out podcast episodes whenever he listened was a huge help. So thank you, Zach. Mike from Indy, who made a New Year's resolution to write me each and every week. That lasted about 3 weeks, but Mike, thank you for making the effort, and you did come back. So thank you, Mike, for participating. Alex from Bolingbrook, who was always writing in, participating on Twitter, calling in at times as well. Thank you for your participation, Alex. You were a great, great help, especially during those middle parts of the lockout. And finally, Matt from Oaklawn. Shout out to Oaklawn. Shout out to Matt for always writing in, but also shout out to Oaklawn. Even if he didn't write in, I'd give a shout out just because he's from Oaklawn. Just like, hey, Sean, I'm from Oaklawn. I'm Matt. I would have gave him a shout out, but he was also participating, which was great. So thank you, Matt, for your participation. And anyone else, if I didn't name you and you did write in or called at 312-566-8727, I really do appreciate it, because it was tough at times to find things to talk about, but White Sox fans always had questions, always had things they needed answers to. So I really do appreciate everyone who did that. I also have to thank the team at Locked On. David Locke, he's created a great platform here for so many people to grow their voices. So thank you, David Locke, for giving me the opportunity to do that and grow my voice here. It was truly an honor to do that. Kylie, behind the scenes at Locked On, I once said I need background music on a podcast, and Kylie was listening, and she sent me a list of all the approved music beds that I could use. And that's why now, if you listen to this on Spotify or Apple, the podcast version, not the video version, you'll hear an outro song, and Kylie helped me pick one. So thank you, Kylie, for your help on that one. Jeff Carr, the MLB manager for the Locked On MLB channel, he's been a great help, really boosted my confidence, really made me feel like I belonged here, which was a great feeling. So thank you, Jeff, for your help. Matt from Sales on Locked On, another listener who helped and sent some very kind words and made me feel more comfortable in my role, and Doug, who helped me set up a lot of the technical stuff. And if I missed you behind the scenes, obviously you guys have built a huge platform and given so many people their voices to grow. So I really appreciate it. And if you look at the top 100 charts, for sports podcasts, you'll see a Locked On podcast, maybe two, even in one of the row of fives. Like, the top 100 is littered with Locked On podcasts because they have created such a great functioning, fluid operation. So thank you to Locked On for letting me be a part of it. It was a great honor. The other hosts in the MLB channel too, we have a DM group for all the Locked On hosts, and I wish you guys the best. Everyone was super kind, and it's great to see that we all have the ability to help each other grow. So good luck to you guys in your seasons. Also have to thank my family, two people mostly, Mango, my girlfriend, who listens to all of the episodes being recorded in her room. She's listening right now, and I want to thank her for putting up with me and listening to me do my ad reads like 10 to 15 times over and over again. So I appreciate her patience with me. I know it's been tough having my studio also be my closet. So her patience with that, and even donating some furniture and a ring light whenever I was recording, really did help boost the production value. So thank you to her, and also thank you to my mom, TGIF. She's always listening, and if I say something wrong, my mom's going to text me and be like, I wouldn't have said that. And I appreciate her for that. She's always keeping me on the straight and narrow. So thank you to those two people specifically, but my family has been a great support. And also thank you to my grandma. My grandma doesn't know much about baseball, but she listens every day. And she, I really do appreciate that. If you're part of my family, I thank you for helping me reach this place. It's been a lot of fun, and you guys put up with a lot of sports takes. A lot of them were unpolished. A lot of them were when I was, just reading the paper when I was 5. So I appreciate you whenever you have listened, even if it's been over the past 24 years. And then finally, I got to thank the guests that have been on the show: Jordan Lazowski, Janice Scurio, Zach Hayes, GD, Nick Morawski, and Beefloaf. Jordan Lazowski of Sox on 35th, Janice Scurio of the CHGO Sky podcast of CHGO White Sox. She's written for many different places. We had her on for the 2022 Baseball Prospectus essay that she wrote about the Chicago White Sox in the Baseball Prospectus Annual. Zach Hayes of Southside Sox of Pitcher List. You can follow him on Twitter at Pine Tar Keyboard. He has helped me become so informed on baseball, and he's been a closer confidant. So it's been great to know Zach and get closer to him. So thank you, Zach, for being on the podcast as well. Shout out to the best burner in White Sox Twitter, GD at Keuchel RBW. If you want to laugh, if you want an entertaining follow, if you want a smart follow, GD is a great follow on Twitter. Nick Morawski of the Good Guys Talk Back podcast. Talking to him is very joyous. He's got such a great delivery. He's got such a great voice, and he is such an easy person to talk to, and he's such a good Sox fan. And I think that people are going to be really excited if they check him out. And we'll maybe you'll hear from Nick. Beefloaf, also got to give a shout out to him from the 108. He's a great guy. I met him, Teresi. Haven't met My Sox Summer yet. I ran into him, but I don't think I've officially met My Sox Summer yet. But talking to Beefloaf about the 108 tourney, and him including me in the 108 tourney, has been a ton of fun. And those guys are a very uniting force in the White Sox world. They bring a lot of fans together, so they have a great platform, and I appreciate him joining this platform as well. I also have to thank Mike Rankin, who was an all-star break host with me when we filled in for Tanny and Herb. He was also a guest on the show. Mike has been my longtime broadcast buddy, and it's been good to be able to work with him at the Score. It's been great to be able to work with him on Locked On Sox, and just seeing his ascent into his career has been really fun. So Mike Rankin of Future Sox, thank you for your time, and thank you for dealing with me as well when my sports takes were more informed than they are now. Finally, 3 more people I have to thank. First person, I'll thank Shane Reardon. Shane has helped me, build my confidence up as a talker. Shane got me my job at the Score. If I didn't have my job at the Score, I wouldn't be at Locked On. I wouldn't be at CHGO. And he's always gassed me up. So shout out to Shane. He's been a huge help to me. And then finally, the big two. You know them. You love them. They're the former hosts of Locked On Sox. I wouldn't be here if they didn't speak up for me. I know that obviously my work put me in some sort of position where they wanted to recognize that, but even if they recognized that I was a hard worker at the Score, they didn't have to speak up and recommend me for Locked On Sox. So thank you to Chris Tannehill. I copied everything you did at 670 The Score, and it got me to here. So I have no regrets. You are one of the best in the business at what you do. You were a huge help in my podcasting career because I listened to you and Herb do all of these post-game shows, talk to all these Sox fans. I got jealous. I got excited. You guys made me really rekindle my love for the White Sox, and Tanny did a great job as the Locked On Sox host, and he's done a great job in every venture that he will, and he's going to kill it at anything he does. And Chris, for you believing in me enough to take over this podcast solo really meant the world to me. And coming from a person, again, that I copied as much as I did, it really meant the world to me. So thank you for entrusting me with that. And then finally, last but not least, I got to mention him because I still work with him. Herb Lawrence, you can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. Herb's my guy. Not only did he speak up for me for Locked On Sox, but he spoke up for me for CHGO. So the guy got me 2 jobs. So I got to be more than grateful to Herb, and he's helped me grow so much as a producer, as a podcast host, as a White Sox fan, and it's Herb and I's story isn't finished. We still got a podcast that we're going to be doing daily, the CHGO White Sox podcast with me, Herb, and Vinny. I'm going to get to know Herb a lot during this season, and I'm excited too. So I want to thank Herb for everything that he's done for me so far. But I know that just with the person that he is, there's a lot more that I'm going to have him to thank for. So thank you, Herb and Tanny, for letting me take this over. And thank you to all the listeners who were so kind in that switch over from me to Herb, from Tanny and Herb to me. And I think the next transition to the new host, you guys will have a very similar feeling. I handpicked this person. There was one person I had in mind for this job, and it luckily worked out. So I'm excited for you to meet them. Me and that person will talk over how we want to announce this, but you will find out who the next host of Locked On Sox is soon. But as the current host, I just have to thank you. If this is your first episode, if this is your last episode, I guess this is my last episode. But if this is, something you took a shot on once, if this is something you took a shot on because Herb and Tanny suggested it, thank you for listening. It meant the world to be able to tell you my White Sox thoughts and go through White Sox therapy. And I hope that this process over the past 4 months has been therapeutic. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. I don't know what the next episode is. I know who's going to host it. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I do know that the next host will take you Sox fans into this very, very important 2022 season, and you will love who this person is. They are very warm, very, very, very endearing, and a very, very educated Sox fan. So I'm excited for you to get to meet them. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, brings you this unique perspective on the major leagues past and present. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Sean Anderson, and thank you so much for listening to Locked On White Sox.